home to some of the most endangered wildlife on the planet. 600 animals, 76 different species. For the first time, the park allows access all areas, from dangerous carnivores to fragile newborns, in unparalleled close encounters. In today's program, the emergency vets are on call as illness strikes. It's a race against time to help zebra, Letitia.
Don't get yourself killed.
The team struggled to catch Fabergé, the Patas monkey, for his treatment.
Come on, Fab.
And there's a constant challenge to keep the park's visitors out of danger. The safari park is set within the historic estate of Woburn Abbey in the heart of England. Every day, up to 750 cars drive through the park to view the animals. And behind the scenes, it's the 57-strong team of staff who work hard to ensure that all the inhabitants live as naturally as possible. The dangerous species roam freely in their reserves. So the first priority for everyone is to keep the visiting public safe from the animals. And the animals safe from each other.
We've got some of the most powerful animals in nature here. You know, you think of the elephants, rhinos, lions, tigers, they would all do you damage. You take lions, okay, they may be asleep, but they all sleep with one eye open. You know, they are extremely dangerous animals. They don't mess around. If they're going to go for you, then the chances are you'll get severely hurt.
There are 45 miles of fencing around the 300-acre site. And for the most risky animals, extra security is needed. A 3,000-volt electric fence.
The electric fencing is designed that it actually pulses. So if you touch it, it gives you a smack. It's like a crack from a cane or a whip or something. And that's normally enough to deter the animals to try and go any further.
The fences are checked every day for any damage. However, the animals can sense when an electric fence is on or off. There is also the danger of a power cut. If this happened, backup generators would kick in and restore the power within 15 seconds. The park's 32 keepers all undergo rigorous training in animal and park safety.
You know, we have to practice animal escapes, car fires, so that's people evacuation. And these are done regularly, normally about 4 or 5 times a year. And we try to make sure all the staff are involved in that, because it's very important that they all know which part they play in a rescue if, God forbid, it actually happens.
There is also a firearms team who train for the most extreme situation, where an animal needs to be shot. But often, it is the visitors that create dangerous situations, not the animals.
Make sure your windows and sunroofs are closed at all times. Windows must be closed while you're in the jungle at all times. Thank you.
Our biggest problems come from people who open windows, lean out, taking photographs in the alarm reserves, tigers. They seem to forget where they are or what they're doing. They just have mental blocks. It's only a minority, but it does happen, which is why in all the sections that we have in here, there is a patrol person. I've been in the business now for about 36 years, and I think I've seen just about everything from a family getting out and having a picnic in a tiger reserve once. They thought they'd actually left the park, and they had literally their picnic laid out before they were found. Luckily that the patrol person was with the tigers and these people were at the other end of their reserve, but if the tigers had gone walkabout, it could have been very dangerous.
Fortunately for Woburn, the public have never been attacked. Every day, the animal team ensure that it is kept that way. The safari's carnivores consume 300 kilos of raw meat every week. On the menu today, their favorite, horse meat. Lean and rich in vitamins, it's bought from local abattoirs and stored in the park's huge refrigerators. Each day it's served up freshly chopped. This morning, keeper Tara is preparing breakfast for the wolves, something which took her a while to get used to.
I did know I'd have to do it, but it doesn't quite prepare you really for what you've got to do. So if you're not really good with blood and things like that, perhaps not the carnivore animals, probably not the best choice to work with. If it's not your thing, perhaps the herbivores may be better.
Not only do you need an iron stomach for this job, but some muscles to match. There are 3 Canadian timber wolves at the park. As the largest subspecies of wolf, they have big appetites. They are fed up to 7 kilos of meat each every 3 days.
Carnivores in the wild tend to gorge on a lot of meat, and then it will last them sort of 3 or 4 days, and then they can go hunting again as a pack. So we just try to replicate that in captivity as much as possible to get them to use their natural behaviours and things. The same is the reason why we keep the bones on the meat as well. So it just helps them display their natural behaviour. And as you can see, the skin's really tough, even the knife struggles to get through it. So obviously it helps them sort of use their teeth and rip through things.
Tara will drive into the wolves' enclosure with the meat. But both she and the wolves need to be vigilant. American black bears live with the wolves, and they also want breakfast. It's been 2 days since the arrival of new male southern white rhino, Kai, and keeper Nick has already taken to him.
Oh, I'm loving him, yeah, and hopefully he feels the same. But it's early days yet, and it'll take a while for him to get to know me, and vice versa, and he'll get to know my smells and voice, and hopefully we'll have a good bonding session as such, yes.
Kai weighs over 2.5 tons and can run up to 45 kilometers per hour at full charge. Even though Nick has worked with Rhino for 34 years, he knows he can never let his guard down.
Kai doesn't actually scare me, but there is a risk that I can get overconfident, and if you do that, then there's going to be trouble. You're going to have an accident, because you can never be 100% sure how an animal is going to react, no matter how long you've been with them.
Kai is taking the place of his brother, Otzi. He's become too dangerous and has even attacked visitor cars, so is moving to a different park. The two brothers have very different personalities, and already the keepers believe that Kai will fit in better.
Kai, come on, good boy. There's a good lad. Come on, sunshine. Good boy. Good boy. He's got a wonderful temperament. He hasn't shown any sort of real aggression. He's shown slight aggression, but that's more out of excitement. There's no sort of malicious aggression there at all.
But there's another reason Kai has come to Woburn: to meet the park's 4 females and start mating.
They can see each other, they can smell each other, they can hear each other, so they know that each other are there and they know what's going on.
But the ultimate test will be when there's no fence line and the 5 rhino make contact. Rhino meetings can be violent and dangerous. Then everyone's safety is at stake.
The Discovery Channel.
In the carnivore reserve at Woburn Safari Park, Keeper Tara has driven into the wolf enclosure to deliver their breakfast. When the keepers drive in, they never leave their vehicles for long. The wolves are naturally shy, but it's who they share their enclosure with that can be a problem. 6 American black bears. They're not usually aggressive, but if they do attack, their motivation is hunger. And they haven't had their breakfast yet, either. Luckily this morning, they're just being nosy. There are 3 wolves, 2 sisters and their mother, who is the alpha female. In their native North America, the wolves can live in packs of up to 30 individuals, hunting down their prey, often larger than themselves, and relying on teamwork to bring the animals down. As the alpha female, Mum gets to sniff the meat first. Wolves are the most closely related canines to dogs. Their powerful legs and jaws make them excellent hunters. In the wild, they'll drag an entire horse or moose carcass to their pack to gorge on. On feed day at the park, they take their time, often leaving some of the meat to snack on later. But this can be risky. To avoid these scavenger attacks, the wolves sometimes bury their meal. It also keeps the meat fresher. But the wolves are scavengers too, especially when it comes to food for the bears. Bears and wolves do live together in the wild. Competition for food is always fierce, and it's usually the wolves who win. But here, the keepers try and give the bears a fighting chance.
Lion Pup, come in, Amy.
Go ahead.
Amy, can I get some backup with these wolves, please, against George?
In the end, backup isn't needed. Young bear George holds his own and gets to keep his breakfast of raw ostrich egg. In the safari's lemur forest, there has been a mysterious death in the group. The lemur was very young, and why it died is unknown. So before the post-mortem results are back, it's urgent that the team check the health of their 15 other individuals. In the wild, lemurs are only found in Madagascar, where all 40 different species are endangered.
Okay, come on, Emily.
This makes the recent death all the more concerning. One of the first signs of illness that the keepers look for is a gain or loss in weight.
We just want to make sure that we don't have any more problems, and we can do the best by weighing them, making sure their diet's good, and if there are any further problems, we can let the vet know. For example, Chulam, he's looking a little bit scruffy around the ruff, so we just want to get a weight off him, make sure he's okay, and we'll compare it with maybe last year's weights to see if there's any drastic change or anything.
With the recent death, the keepers are being extra vigilant, especially as the group has just welcomed a new baby.
The latest survivor we have here at Woburn is Chili. He's a 2.5-month-old red-bellied lemur. He's still clinging to Mum's back, so we may see him jumping about now and again, trying to find him. We will like to try and get a weight with Mum combined with youngster. Generally tell us how well the youngster's doing, because we've got a weight from Mum from last year when she wasn't pregnant.
The lemurs, including the newborn, all pass their weight check.
2.5 kilograms.
So until the post-mortem results are back, the death is still a mystery. But there are other dangers for the primates. The lemurs live in high treetops, and their energetic leaps can lead to injury.
Their hands are very similar to us, so they do suffer a lot of sprains while they're jumping around. And if we do come across anything, we will treat that as and when required.
3 different species of lemur live here, and they can be aggressive towards each other as they fight to maintain the hierarchy amongst the different groups.
You don't have to be the biggest to be the most aggressive, that's for sure. They sort of go up in their own little gangs. You've got the red bellies. If they're unhappy with one little black and white rough lemur, they'll all sort of go after it and tell it who's in charge. But then the black and white roughs will gang up and go back and tell them. So it's like a schoolyard squabble, really.
But when they have to defend their territory from outside threats, the group all stick together. And when it comes to noise, the black and white lemurs have one of the loudest calls of any primate. Illness has struck on the other side of the park too. Letitia, the Grevy's zebra, has gone lame. In the wild, this species is endangered, with numbers as low as 2,500, and just 600 survive in captivity. Here at the safari park, predators are kept separate. If not, Letitia would now be easy pickings. It's vital that she gets back to health quickly, so the vet has been called in to examine her. She has already been darted with anesthetic, so the medical team can investigate why she's gone lame and deal with the problem if they can.
She's a little bit light at the moment.
Although she is sedated, she is still a wild animal, so the team need to secure her legs whilst the anesthetic takes effect.
Another rope there, or the other end of the same rope.
Grevies are the largest zebra species. The females can weigh over 400 kilos, so Letitia could really pack a punch.
Don't get yourself kicked. I just want it held up in the air slightly, that's all. But it might be better over there. You can still deliver a hefty kick, even when anaesthetised sometimes.
It's immediately obvious that all 4 of her hooves are overgrown and need trimming.
That's the idea.
This should cure her lameness. The team will have to work quickly before the anesthetic wears off.
She tends to get a twisted hoof. So if we don't do them regularly, then the hooves just twist further. And it's the backs that tend to get the worst of the twist on them.
In the wild, zebra roam over rough terrain that naturally wears down their hooves. But sometimes the grassland at the safari park is too soft to do this job for them. Luckily, so far, it's only Letitia that's suffering. As they trim down the hooves, the team find more serious damage inside, a worrying sign.
Got a lot of laminar bruising in this one.
Yeah, I've had it in both of these fronts.
The laminae are thin membranes which hold the hoof onto the foot.
They can get inflamed and bruised,
There's areas here.
and it can be quite sore.
Letitia has laminitis. This is the inflammation of the sensitive membranes. If the tissue breaks down too much, it can't attach properly to the bone, driving it down through the hoof. Unless caught early and treated, the pain is immense and the second biggest killer in horse species. The hoof trimming should stop any further bruising, but Letitia will be carefully monitored in case it gets any worse.
Thank you, guys.
The zebra is given an injection to reverse the effects of the anesthetic drugs, but the vet and the keepers have to back off as they don't know how quickly she'll come round.
It's very variable, actually. It could be anything from 1 minute to 10, 15 minutes. Each individual is just that, an individual, and how they respond to drugs is unpredictable. Not quite ready to stand up yet. It's often better if they will just lie still for 5 minutes just to allow the drugs to work, but some, out of fear, will try and stand up straight away. In fact, I'm just going to back away slightly.
Instinct kicks in. Letitia is keen to get up on her feet as soon as possible. But unless she takes it easy, it could delay her recovery. Woburn Safari Park is home to one of the world's most popular but endangered species, the Siberian tiger. The park has two sisters, Karushka and Yuyeka. Today, Karushka is limping badly. She has hip dysplasia, and every so often, the uncomfortable symptoms flare up.
It's just a little bit wobbly on her back legs occasionally, and they sort of cross over. You can see she's not comfortable. She's had it since she's about 4-year-old. Probably, you know, it's genetic, we expect. So every year she tends to struggle a little bit.
Robert is concerned about this rare tigress, so has called Vet Martin over to the Big Cat Reserve.
I wonder if when she comes out she gets more exercise and whether that just aggravates it a little bit.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, winter time she's shut in that pen and it's cold and all the rest of it, and she's fine. Don't have no trouble with her.
But she's resting more.
Yeah, I reckon that have something to do with it.
At 13, Karushka is an older cat, but she's still energetic.
She's quite a lively animal. She gets about and she goes after the Land Rovers, so she's quite mischievous. You have to watch her. She's a bit of a bugger. You know what I mean? Bites the car bumpers. We try and stop her, but she's a bit quick, so she can move about when she wants to.
Karushka's determination to keep pacing around her enclosure is adding to her problems. There's only one solution.
What we'll do, Robert, I think she'd benefit from a short course of anti-inflammatory drugs that we've done previously. Obviously, we've just got to be careful because it does put quite a lot of pressure on her kidneys. But if we can go for 7 to 10 days, you know, if we get a good improvement, we'll try and wean her off it after that.
Karushka will take her medication in a specially prepared steak sandwich. Once digested, the anti-inflammatory drug will work within 12 to 24 hours, and she should feel much more comfortable. But this also has its drawbacks.
The problem is she feels better, so therefore she moves about a lot more, and it's like catch-22 really. She doesn't need to do too much before, you know, it starts giving her problems again. But you know, you can't very well keep them quiet all day. You know, they do what they do, and it's giving her more problems.
The hip condition is incurable. Medication will help, but if Karushka's quality of life deteriorates too far, the park will have to make a tough decision about this member of the rarest and most majestic of species. The safari's monkey jungle is home to a group of patas monkeys and a troop of 30 cheeky Barbary macaques. But the most impressive are the bachelor group of 5 drills. They are the most endangered primates in Africa. With just 74 individuals in captivity globally, Woburn is one of the few safari parks in the world that houses them. And for keeper Laura, they're big trouble. Although the 3 species all live together, it's important that the drills can be separated from the others on command. And Laura usually has them well trained. The drills need to eat more than the other primates, and the only way to ensure this is to get them inside on their own.
If I feed them all together, they won't get exactly what they need. Their dietary requirements are similar, but the amount of what they actually have is different.
But they don't just come in for food, The drills are more sensitive to the cold than the hardy barberries, so need to spend more time indoors.
Good lad. Come on, Cumby.
But there's a knack to getting the drills inside that isn't always obvious.
Come on, Cumby. Good boy. When bringing the primates in, we can have a lot of difficulty sometimes. It's not always easy. Having patience does help. Good boy. Come on.
Today, cheeky Cumby is refusing to follow the drill.
Come on, it's okay. Come on. Come on. The drills can be difficult because they're very easily spooked. For example, if a car came past too quick, they'd be gone. They like to be in a routine and they like to know that everything's safe.
Laura tries her "you can't see me" trick,
Good boy. Hey, good boy.
but even that's not working today.
Good boy, Cumby.
Laura has been tending to the primates for 10 years, but she still has to be wary. These monkeys have 3-centimeter long, sharp canines, and a bite can be very painful. Cumby still won't play ball.
Can I get your sweet potato? Will that help?
While Laura's off to fetch the bribe, Cumby now decides it's time to go inside. But with the door locked, he's blocked.
Good boy, Cumby. Go on.
Finally, Laura's back. The door is open, and it's the sweet potato that does the talking.
Good boy.
Back with the zebra, the herd are out grazing, and Letitia is finally up on her feet after her hoof trimming. But instead of joining the others out on the reserve, the keepers have decided to take Letitia off the grass to help with her laminitis.
It's good for her to be on the sort of harder sand at the moment. They're not used to this sort of lush green grass out in Africa. It's a lot coarser, so they are a bit more prone, the wilder species, to get and develop laminitis. Now, Letitia's had laminitis a few times before, so just to sort of prevent it and slow that down from happening, we've brought her in to limit the access that she has to grazing.
Treading on the soft grass is not good for Letitia's hooves, but eating the grass can also be harmful, as its high sugar content aggravates the condition. And a zebra will eat non-stop for hours if it's allowed to. The keepers have also decided to control the zebra's diet when they come in every night.
We're actually managing what they eat by soaking hay for 24 hours. This basically gets rid of all the nutrients in the hay, including all the sugars, and will prevent them developing laminitis.
Zebra are herd animals and like living together in close-knit groups. So, as soon as her laminitis can be brought under control, Letitia will be allowed to head out and rejoin the others. In the rhino house, the arrival of new male Kai is unsettling his older brother, Otzi.
Otzi does know that Kai's here, and vice versa, although neither of them have met, because we don't want that, because that would stress both animals out and make them both aggressive. But their sense of smell is acute, their sense of hearing is acute, and now that Kai is in the same building as Otzi, they can sense each other, they can hear each other, they can smell each other.
The tension won't last long, because Otzi is soon leaving for his new home in Denmark. But whilst he's still here, he can't help but be territorial.
He's scent marking more now that Kai's here, because he's sort of gone up a level of alertness, as it were. So if any other rhino went in that paddock, that rhino would know that, oh, there's another rhino been here, and it's Otzi's domain.
To prepare for his travels, Otzi needs to get used to the crate he'll be traveling in, and this takes time.
It is a training process. It's not just a case of opening the doors and, you know, he'll walk straight in, because things don't work like that, especially when you're with animals.
To give Otzi a helping hand, he's been given a sedative leading up to and for the journey.
Basically, I suppose it's like a chill-out pill. Just calms him down. He's going to be in a confined space. It's all going to be new to him. And the chances are, if he wasn't sedated, he'd do himself damage. He'd try and wreck the place.
It's day one of crate training, and Otzi is, well, he's not really that bothered.
Otzi. Otzi. Otzi, good boy. Don't really expect him to do much at all, other than come over to the crate area, probably put his nose inside, have a good sniff around. But these things take a lot of time. There's food in there for him for when he wants to go in, some really nice food that he likes. And at the end of the day, hopefully he'll have got used to a little bit, then tomorrow a little bit more, and gradually, as the days progress, hopefully he'll go straight in and out again without any problem. Come on, good boy, where are you? Good boy, come on, good lad.
The crate is the one that Kai arrived in. The keepers have cleaned it to remove his rival's scent, but Otzi doesn't seem so sure.
Good boy. I know, it's all different, isn't it? Eh? He's just getting enough confidence to go that extra step, grab some food, and then, well, hang on a bit, I better go back to my comfort zone, so that's why he's going back in, eating his food, and then hopefully he might come back again. Don't have to take it back in with you, though, Otz.
Otzi might be treating the crate with disdain for now, but with only a week to go before he leaves, he has to hurry up and get used to it. The safari park is home to a herd of 13 Rothschild giraffe. The adults each consume a massive 60 kilos of vegetation every day. The park simply can't keep up with the amount of leaves the giraffe eat in the wild.
They're designed to browse from trees rather than forage and graze on the grasses. So we try and provide as much as we can, but obviously we can't give them as much as they have in the wild.
Even if their enclosure was a forest, it would be stripped of leaves within days. So each day, a team heads out to chop down willow browse from the park's 14 hectares of plantation. These are then winched up 7-meter poles to give them a more natural table height.
A giraffe will use its tongue just to strip the leaves off the plant. It doesn't really go for the bark as such, but because their tongues are prehensile, they're able to wrap around the stem and just strip the leaves off.
It's not just the giraffe's daily feed the keepers have to plan for. They also need to build up a supply of leaves for the giraffe to feed on through the winter. Once collected, the keepers spend several hours cutting, stripping and storing the leaves in airtight barrels to keep them fresh.
We need to get a good back of a Land Rover worth because we need to be able to fill around 200 barrels. So by the end of the growing season, we need to have around 4,000 kilos, so about 4 ton of leaves to see us through the winter period, as well as giving the giraffe their daily amount of browse that they need just to survive on a daily basis.
For Woburn, it's a constant round of collecting, storing and feeding to keep the park's 20 herbivore species happy and contented, especially through the lean winter months. Much closer to the ground, it's also feeding time for one of the safari's smallest inhabitants, 2 tiny burrowing owl chicks. They are still just babies, but within weeks, these 2 little predators will be strong, carnivorous hunters. They were separated from their mum at birth and are being hand-reared by the keepers. On their menu today, baby pinky mice, chicks, and adult mice.
This little mouse for these little owls is exactly the same as a gazelle for a lion. It makes no difference, they're both predators. Unlike other animals, they don't drink milk, they just eat meat from the word go. The pinkies are nice and soft, so they're easy digestible, whereas the mouse gives them a start on roughage on their bones and on their fur. So they're starting to get used to taking whole mice, just as Mum would do. She'd rip off small bits of food, and then the bits of food would get bigger and bigger as she goes.
Within 5 weeks, these chicks will eat these mice whole.
So this is Blue Tag. He's called Blue Tag at the moment because we've got 2 of them. They haven't got names yet, and so to tell them apart, one has a blue tag and one has a green tag. So I've weighed him now, and he's put on a nice bit of weight, so now we need to make sure that he's hungry, so we're going to give him his tea.
Blue Tag weighs in at 135 grams and will quickly get heavier.
He is quite seriously a bird of prey. By this age, he would be out of the burrow and he would be starting to run around. And Mum and Dad would have a full-time job looking after these guys. They can have up to between 4 and 6 chicks, and they'd be running around supplying them with enough insects and mice to make sure they're happy and well fed. But yet he's got a serious pair of talons and he's got a serious beak to him already.
Getting their feeding right is a big responsibility.
At the moment, they're being fed 4 times a day, and we just feed them until they don't want any more. If we overfeed them, we could actually kill them because they don't have time to clear out their systems. They're not fed from between about 8 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning because this allows them to produce their pellet or regurgitate all the bones and the fur and the feather that they don't want in their systems anymore. So I think he's just about had his fill. So we'll pop him back on the scales and we'll see how much he's eaten.
Both chicks passed their weight test and have put on 13 grams each. They'll have to continue growing like this every day for 6 weeks before they're strong enough to fly. The park's busy vets are on call again, but this time, it's in the monkey jungle. Sickness may have struck these primates. Fabergé, the patas monkey, has been losing weight rapidly.
We think he's been showing signs of some dental problems, holding his mouth abnormally. So we're going to sedate him, have a look at his teeth, and potentially take some out or do any treatment that's appropriate.
Patas monkeys are the fastest moving primates in the world, reaching speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour. They have a high metabolism, and being able to eat quickly and often is vital to their survival. The team need Fabergé alone to dart him, but at the last minute, another monkey slips into the pen. Keeper Laura must now try and catch him using a net before sedating him. Their sharp canines could puncture her skin, and there's a danger that if spooked, both monkeys could turn on her. But this time, it's Laura who's in charge.
Come on, Fab.
With one quick, precise swipe, Fabergé is brought down.
1 minute, wait. I haven't got him secure.
As soon as Fabergé has calmed down, vet Susanna injects him with the sedative.
He's pretty much gone.
The team begins the dental examination.
And the teeth don't look that abnormal an angle.
The bottom right, as you look at it, that's the one that's...
Yeah, which is possibly grown slightly.
Right.
As if he's had some kind of injury.
The only problem he has is a bit of tartar on those teeth. No broken teeth, the gums look fine. Not got any swellings anywhere.
The team can't attribute his weight loss to dental problems, so they need to rule out any underlying medical conditions.
We're just taking a blood sample so that we can check all his organ functions. I will sit in there for a minute.
Examination complete, and Fabergé is returned to the pen to regain consciousness.
It's good that his teeth are fine. He's got a bit of tartar on them, but they generally do. It could have been anything. He's a castrated male, so he's always going to be leaner than a fully grown male. They're very quick. Their metabolism is very, very high, so if they're dropping weight, then we have to look at the diets.
Fabergé's weight loss will remain a mystery until the blood test results come back. The doors to the park are now closed to the public, and the last of the keepers are putting their animals indoors for the night. The Asian elephants are heading in for dinner, but before they can begin their feast, they have to demonstrate good table manners.
We just get them to do a couple of behaviours. It's just similar to getting your dog to sit down before you give them their food. It's just basic manners, really, so we know the elephants aren't just going to walk off, because obviously being such big animals, that could be quite dangerous.
Elephants are one of nature's most intelligent species. They're trained to perform certain commands, which help with their daily care. And these girls do like to be synchronized. This kind of direct contact would be impossible with the park's male elephant, Raja. Bull elephants are notoriously aggressive, and it would be too risky. Raja will get his food at the second sitting. The design of the elephant house mimics what they would naturally find in the wild.
We've got the holes in the wall, which are feeders. They've got a mesh panel behind, and the hay sits on the panel at the back, and there's fruit on there as well. And it just makes the elephants work a little bit more for their food.
In the wild, elephants use their trunks constantly to forage for food. In captivity, if they don't exercise their muscles enough, it can lead to trunk paralysis. Here, food is put up in the air, so they're encouraged to stretch up and keep fit. It's dessert time. Fresh fruit in the form of whole watermelons. Today, one character has her own unique way of getting into the flesh.
With Shendrika, we're not sure if she was just being very clever or quite lazy and couldn't be bothered to walk around the log, so she just pushed the log over both melons so she'd get into them a lot quicker.
In contrast, Damini chooses a more conventional method to crack open her dessert. And she's not wasting a scrap, because Damini is pregnant. Everyone is eagerly anticipating the elephant birth, the park's first in its 40-year history. Elephant births in captivity are highly risky, and the specialist team are on standby.
Looks good. But it has to come out.
The vet team are also on a mission to stop conflict in the lion pride.
Getting up close to the safari park's residents again when the adventure continues with a new episode next Saturday night here on Sky 3D at 9.